I think some people love to build, and I think some people like to just be an employee. I realized like I enjoyed the building part, even though it's so much more stressful and headaches laden than once it became a pure machine. That was some of the most exciting times. Every day could be a pivotal day. Every decision could be something really exciting, and you don't know what's going to happen.
You're listening to Real Returns, where we learn how real leaders are finding real purpose through the work they do. Join your hosts, Andrew and Dan, as they interview leaders about how their businesses are creating meaningful change for individuals and communities around the world.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Real Returns podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Reichert, joined with my co-host, Dan Croce. Dan, you were gone for a couple episodes. Good to have you back.
Glad to be here. It's an exciting time right now in Pittsburgh. We got the NFL draft coming into town this week. But yeah, glad to be here. Glad to be sitting here today with our friend, a local Pittsburgher, Dinakar Golla. Dinakar is a plastic surgeon, but also an entrepreneur, an investor, in many ways, a mentor and a friend to me, someone who's I admire a lot, and really excited to have him on the show today and to learn from his experiences.
I'm always great to get intros like that. My mom would be proud to get a formal invite. I might send it to her right after this, but really enjoy being a part of this team, and really enjoyed getting to know both of you. So I'm excited about today.
Well, it's funny you mention your mom because you have amazing parents who are like parents to us in many ways. They come to our events and just love on us, and they've been great. But tell us a little bit about kind of your background. How did you get into healthcare and what do you do today?
Well, knowing my parents, they're both physicians, and I was born in India, but came here when I was 6 years old, and I moved to Pittsburgh, and fresh, pretty much off the boat in essence, and grew up in North Hills. And Pittsburgh has an amazing Indian heritage. A lot of Indians live there, and my parents kind of set the precedent for physicians, and so I kind of saw it firsthand, and loved the whole experience of like seeing their day to day and hearing about what they loved. So I knew really early that I wanted to be a physician. I would say as early as maybe ninth grade, I kind of knew I wanted to be a doctor.
And even a surgeon at that point, or just
cardiac
healthcare?
Surgeon.
Really?
So I originally thought I wanted to be like the typical cardiac surgeon, heart doctor.
Yeah.
And when I was looking around, there were programs that were designed for 7 years. You could do undergrad in medical school straight out of high school. So I kind of looked at those programs specifically, and I ended up going to Boston. My mom had always thought like Boston's the center of education in the world.
Yeah.
And although it was 4 times more expensive than other schools that I got into, my parents were like, go there and go to school. But BU was great. I did undergrad in medical school there. Until third year of medical school, I pretty much thought I was going to be a cardiac surgeon. I had spent time in London with the Royal Brompton Heart and Lung Institute. I went to Texas Heart, worked with Denton Cooley, who's like world renowned.
Yeah.
Every summer, every part of my life, you kind of see that. But I think it's just like, probably just like both of you, at a certain point, you think you know everything, and then something suddenly changes,
and you realize you know nothing.
Nothing, right? And so, all of us have had those, I think, amazing mentors. And I had that particular experience in my third year of medical school.
Okay.
I had a very, very great plastic surgeon whose name was Gaspar Anastasi, and he was my rotation on plastics. I originally just thought I'd learn how to sew, I'd learn how to do that. But he was just that guy, right? Like he made everything that he did resonate with me, and I really just truly fell in love with that field. And then I think he like literally was my mentor in many ways. Kind of took me under his wing after a month, and he said, you really should do this over being what you are. And I said, okay. Wow. Kind of took me to like sending me around the country to work with different plastic surgery departments, including Pittsburgh, Stanford, Penn, Harvard, and said, this is for you. Without him, I probably wouldn't have gotten plastics. It was uber competitive back then, but like you just needed to like have started to do some things. I was lucky enough that I at least did well in school, that I could, give myself a shot. But without him, no doubt.
Wow.
The craziest part of that story, he died 2 days after I matched because he had colon cancer.
Wow.
And so I sometimes think like he was like that guardian angel.
Yeah.
And I'm sure all of you kind of had experiences like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. I just want to underscore the mentor. So few people really have that influence, and what a gift that he spoke into your life. conviction that ended up bearing fruit, and it's still bearing fruit to today. And his legacy lives on through you.
Yeah,
and
I remember him every day.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. Who are your mentors?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot about the pivotal points in my life.
Yeah.
So I had a mentor when I was in college who really encouraged me to seek an entrepreneurial path and actually invest in real estate, which is what we do today. And then I did both. I started investing in real estate. I started a little consulting company, but I also worked at PNC. And then 5 years later, I had another mentor who said, "Hey, Andrew, I think you should just do the real estate thing." This was in 2011. And I resigned from PNC in 2012. And he said, "Look, you can always go back and get a job at a bank." And that to me was just like eye-opening. For some reason, I never thought that. Like, I thought that if I resigned, from PNC, that I really was missing out on a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
He encouraged me to take the leap. So how about you, Dan?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I could go a lot of different directions in different ways. Different people influence different kind of parts of my life. But most holistically, where I go with it is actually the Burgo Investor Network. I think we've had the great privilege of interacting with successful people who are further down the line from us, who have believed in us in a certain capacity. And I've really leaned into viewing that as an opportunity to build a relationship and not just, steward capital, but ask questions about family and life and, values and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I think I get some of that from you, Dinakar. And so
kind.
there's a lot of people in our, network that are similar, and very grateful for that. I'm curious to learn. So, take us back to some of the early days. So you commitment that's influenced significantly by your mentor. What's it like kind of making the leap and starting your own thing? And was it a piece of cake from day one, or I'm guessing there was some challenges along the way? So just take us back to those early days.
Absolutely. I think, when I finished residency, it was 2004, and my chairman of plastic surgery at the time, who left the university, started a private practice. And I joined him for a year with another plastic surgeon. And after a year, he was really not committed to being in private practice. So I actually went back to the university, similar to kind of what you were talking about. There's roads keep going multiple directions. I think only by experiencing it, you kind of know what you don't belong in, right? And otherwise you just kind of don't know. So I was at the university for 5 years, and I realized the constraints of a university system didn't allow me to grow. It just allowed the university to grow.
Interesting.
And so I felt like I needed to do it on my own. And I kind of had, like, my father, who was in private practice, kind of had that inkling that I was really belonging in that setting. So I said, if I can't do it, that I had a wife who was also a doctor, what chance am I taking on myself? And so I really felt like by starting my own practice, I could do it my way, kind of set it up the way that I wanted to from an efficiency point of view, kind of take care of patients the way I wanted patients to be taken care of, not be stuck to a screen, but really talk to them. So I felt like a lot of things that I really wanted to do could be accomplished that way. The challenges are endless. And from starting a practice, billing, insurance, the regulations, the note taking, there's so much bureaucracy in healthcare. And that's kind of stemming to some of the inefficiencies of healthcare. But I think navigating that is so exciting, though. I think some people love to build, and I think some people like to just be an employee. And I think there's both have value.
Yeah, there's a place for both.
I realized, like, I enjoyed the building part, even though it's so much more stressful and headaches laden than once it became a pure machine. That was some of the most exciting times. Every day could be a pivotal day. Every decision could be something really exciting, and you don't know what's going to happen. And so I think that's just part of who I was.
Yeah. Well, let's fast forward to today, because one of the things I think about when I think about you and a lot of our investors is a transition from success to significance. And I know that you've done actually a lot in terms of now really pouring into that next generation and thinking about your investments and advisory. And so, like, tell us what are you doing today?
Sure. I think this stems from my ADD or all of those different components, not sitting still. And my wife would complain about all of those aspects, and that characterizes myself. But I think about 15 years ago, my wife and I both had a small family office that was investment oriented, and I wanted to learn more about alternative ways of investing, not the classic, put it into stocks, put it into bonds, classic portfolios. Yeah. And I was, again, blessed with really great mentors, people who were in that alternative space, private equity, who, I could call on and say, should I do this? Knowing who I am, does this make sense for what I was doing? Yeah. And the amazing aspect of all of this is just asking questions. I feel like that's the one take-home message I tell my kids all the time, is just ask questions. You'll be amazed to get the answers. People are willing to share it. And so getting into that private equity world was like an eye-opening experience. First LP meeting that I went to was in Boston with a company called Thomas Lee. And my friend was a partner there. And we were like the only two people that were physicians, much less not, family offices that were like from, South Korea, Dubai, etc. And that was educational. In today's world, I think the beauty of that is you can learn through pretty much your phone at every moment. So I didn't know what EBITDA was. Right. I didn't know what CAGR was, but amazing that you could learn that all just through listening. And the people who were the LPs, like you mentioned, you learn so much from them. Like those LP meetings, I met people who were so willing to like share what they've learned about investing in the private equity with me. And I kept picking their brains about it over time. So it's kind of evolved. I consider it now a construct of kind of a diverse portfolio of US buyout, real estate, of course, with both of you guys, credit, secondaries, co-investments. But it's been a lot of learning for sure.
Interesting. Any examples? Because a lot of our listeners are investors in their own right. Any experience in terms of this worked really well, or this particular thing, wish I had a redo on that? If you don't have to name specifics, but like what did you learn?
No, I think those are great. And if I can help anybody in terms of that, please reach out. I'm happy to share what I've learned so far. But one of the things that I think you only learn by doing is you see what works in terms of particular investments. I have certain rules now, which is a fund that has never had any experience, even though could become a home run, I'm just not the best investor for it. And I think, as you know, the first fund tends to do really well if they have a second one. Right. Otherwise, they don't have a second one. And so I've been victim of that. But I consider that just a great learning experience. I never regretted an investment because I think you learn something valuable through that process. Right. And I think every single person who's doing a fund is doing the best they can to be successful. And when you think about that, that's all you can really ask. And sometimes it's a lot of fate. Sometimes it's like just bad luck. And so that's one. The second is, I think, just like most things in life, I think the team is all that matters. The concept, what they're doing, and it's more true in venture, which I do a little bit more of now, is really all I care about is the people. The rest of that vision, creation, it's going to happen if the people can do it. And it's just believing in those people. So.
I'd love to hear from your experiences. We tend to find a lot of meaning in the way that we do our work. And as your work shifts over time to being someone who thinks about investing capital into ventures that are typically in the healthcare space, I imagine there's a human component to that, to how it makes the world better. So talk to us about how you think about the technologies, or on the earlier stage side, the stuff that you look at, and the way that those investments hopefully are bringing meaningful change in the world.
I think we were talking about it offline before we got on, is that America is the most expensive healthcare system in the world. And it's probably got one of the worst outcomes, not the worst outcome, but it's pretty poor. And that's sad, because I think the key to that is that it has to be value-based. All of our lives are somewhat value-based, and healthcare should be. If it's getting to be 20% of GDP and we're just not getting really good outcomes, that's a bad thing. So I think when I look at healthcare, I think about the inefficiencies are really built on the way that it's designed. It's designed on a system of rewarding use rather than outcomes. That's a paradigm shift that has very many challenges, right? From a bureaucratic point of view to the actual end users. Somebody said it best. They're like, you have 3 silos that are all not in partnership to each other. No other business has that.
Right.
Like, the end user.
That's the provider, the payer, and the end user?
End user.
Gotcha.
And patient, and at the end of the day, it's like, they're not aligned. And like, how do you change that? I think is significant. Now, I think what can be changed, I think rather than thinking of what can't be changed, is I think the efficiencies of healthcare technology, which can make healthcare much more efficient, is going to make a difference, right? Like, I mean, obviously we have resources now that can do things remotely. You can monitor patients from around the world, pretty much. You can do surgery remotely. You can do so many things remotely now that I think that can change how the care delivery is done. I think having a system that allows information to doctors that are critical, not just inundation of wasteful information, but condensed about you, is going to be critical. And then you literally owning your information is critical. Patients, I think, ultimately have to own their care. Right.
100%,
and if you look at like half of the problems in healthcare, there's a lot of my patients who just don't own their own care.
It's reactive instead of proactive. They're just saying, hey, like, I'll go to the doctor when I've got a problem, as opposed to thinking about, hey, how can I be proactive about this? Who do I need to talk to? What can I fix? That kind of.
And if you look at the obesity, of course, that's getting better. Insulin dependence, secondary to obesity, heart disease, secondary to all of these things. But ultimately, patients have to take care of themselves. And that comes to like a systematic implementation of those things are what matter, not when it's too late.
And I don't want to get too technical for our listeners who are investors, but it's a topic I'm passionate about. You probably know this, but I had cancer 12 years ago now. And thank God, cancer-free for a while. But I've just become a student of health and fitness and, really the healthcare system too. But one of the things I'm curious about, I mean, the misaligned incentives is real, because the value of a diabetic patient, this is just something I heard, better than I do, but the value of a diabetic patient to the healthcare system is like $250,000. So why would they just say, hey, go diet and exercise, or do things that don't cost money, or be proactive about it? Now, GLP-1s and the other stuff are changing that today, but the value of a diabetic patient for insulin and everything else, the incentives are just totally misaligned.
I agree wholeheartedly. For example, a dialysis patient is chronically 3 times a week to a dialysis center. If you get them off of dialysis, you just lost a patient. Which is crazy.
It's 100%.
You're defining exactly what I'm talking about. So you see it. It's just, how do you change that? And the doctor who's going to lose a patient, in essence, lose revenue, how do you then say, guess what? We'll pay you differently so that you don't lose revenue for doing good care.
Right.
And that's going to take some time.
And that's a boil of the ocean kind of an issue. And other people have tried to fix that with either universal healthcare or an integrated health system. And some of those do work. Like Kaiser Permanente, when you have the payer and the provider that are one and the same. But anyway, I'm a geek with
that's a great example.
So I'm going to actually move on from that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just great. I'm honestly like, where my head goes with this kind of healthcare technology innovation is that I think a lot about capital allocation and how, we need to have technologies and businesses that are growing that can solve these problems, that actually understand the system. And the system is incredibly complicated. So I'm just grateful that there are people like you that understand it, that have lived it, that can look at a problem and actually understand the entire ecosystem and what a real solution is going to look like. Because from an outsider standpoint, I mean, that seems like a pretty significant uphill battle. But I'm glad that there are people who are thinking concretely about solving those problems like you.
Thank you.
So just last question. Looking forward, next 5 years, next 10 years, how do you see impact in your life, in your work, and what your, vision is really for you, for your children, really for everything you've got going on?
That's a very good question. I wish I knew all of those answers, but I think for me, I am in this stage of my life. I have 3 amazing children who are about to be all in college. And so empty nesting is my new next phenomena that I'm going to experience. I think it gives you like a chance to like go back to what I call like a student life, right? Like, of course, I'm married. My wife is very active, but she doesn't need me like our kids needed me. So I feel like I can go back to this idea of like starting to like learn again as if I'm back in college. And I've really taken that over the last year and like really started to explore avenues where I can learn more about venture, learn more about healthcare problems and where those solutions can be with the prism of a person who's been in healthcare. And I think I used to never value that because I thought everybody would know that. But the more I'm in private equity, the more I'm in all of those circles, the more I realize there is a value to that kind of concept. And that's been eye-opening. I think making differences in investments along the continuum of healthcare has been really fun. From anywhere from a startup that we're doing in Atlanta for an IV infusion business, or the venture fund that I'm starting here in Pittsburgh that I'm really excited about because I think there's a lot of amazing, brilliant people in Pittsburgh starting really great technology with no funding. And I think giving them just a little start for their technology to get them off the ground, I think we'll see exponential growth. We're in this amazing time, right? We have an ability to have SaaS businesses with 3 people at 50 million ARR.
Yeah.
There's a talk I went to, a Harvard professor that said, you will see a company, one person with $1 billion valuation.
One person unicorn,
which is amazing.
Yeah.
So we live in this really amazing time. I think what we can do to our children is just keep them broadly educated. Like I love that my kids are involved in our family office now. Yeah. They love finance and I love them getting more into it because no matter what you do, I think it's great to like understand that. So I like them involved in every pitch deck that I get. I like them involved in every LP meeting I go to. So that's been really kind of fun to like give them that little information for their families too.
Amazing. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that impact for your kids and the initiatives and the investments that you're making. We're going to move to conclude. Dan, I'm going to put you on spot. What's one thing you're taking away from the conversation today?
The significance of mentorship in our lives. I did not know that part of your story, Dinakar, that you were kind of going this way and stopped on a dime. And it's a really helpful reminder to me that I think about that kind of downstream for me, looking at the next generation and where can I move the needle for someone else. So that's just a very obvious takeaway for me.
I love that. Really good. For me, I was thinking specifically about influence and impact and alignment of incentives. I mean, it's kind of in the weeds, but as I hear your story about healthcare and what you've done and what I'm seeing in the industry and really the investments that you're making, you really can have an outsized impact if you really think about getting incentives aligned. And so I think it's really cool, some of the technology you're investing in that is creating efficiency in a really inefficient world. So I'm excited to see that come to fruition. Dinakar, thank you so much. If folks want to connect with you or learn more about what you're doing, what's the best way to do that?
Sure. Either LinkedIn or our website, gollaplasticsurgery.com. Either way, I love hearing from people and learning from all of you and finding out what motivates you guys. So thank you for your time. Really been fun to kind of share this. So thanks for the great questions.
Thanks for being on the show. Listeners, if you're not already subscribed, we've got a newsletter at realreturnspodcast.com. And thanks so much for listening. You know where to find us, and really appreciate you all joining us. We'll catch you next time. Thanks, everyone.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Real Returns. Tune in every other Wednesday for more conversations around investing, entrepreneurship, and how business can instill a sense of purpose.